Welcome back to the Changing Earth podcast with author Sarah F. Hathaway and co-host Chen Gibson, blending survival fiction and fact to bring you entertaining education that will help you dream, survive, and thrive. And now, here's your host, Sarah F. Hathaway and Chen Gibson.
Chapter 19. Cole rested in his bunk, dreaming of days past. Chappie snored loudly, and Monroe slumbered nearby. Sergeant Cook quietly entered the room, approaching Major Virgis. She said gently, "Major Virgis, sir." Cole woke up immediately. He sat up. "What?" "Sir, Major General Barnes is requesting your presence," Cook informed him. "Now? What time is it?" Cole wondered. "Yes, sir, it's 0400, sir," Cook informed him. "I'm coming," he assured the woman, standing from his bed. "Chappie, Monroe, on your feet," he bellowed. "Let's go." "Oh, man, what the hell is going on, Major?" Chappie wondered grumpily. "I don't know, but the Major General called for us," he responded as he finished buttoning up his shirt. "Come on, Sleepy," Monroe teased him. "We just went to bed 2 hours ago," Chappie grumbled, putting his hat on. As they stepped from their tent, they noticed a buzz going through the camp. Soldiers hustled about and red lights flashed a warning signal. "This does not look good, Major," Monroe whispered. "We'll find out soon enough," Cole replied, climbing the few steps to the building where they could find Major General Barnes. Cook met Virgis inside. "Sir, he's waiting in his office." "Thank you, Cook," Cole said with a smile. He turned and entered the office. Inside, Major General Barnes paced the floor, his face red with anger. When he saw Cole enter, he stopped and addressed him immediately. "Major, I need you to put together search teams. We've been robbed." Cole looked surprised by this change of events. "What? When?" "We think it was at the guard change this morning. They were organized and knew our patterns," he declared. "Who could have pulled that off?" Cole questioned. "One of the militias. They're the only ones with enough leadership," he responded. "I don't know, sir. There hasn't been much activity from them around here," Cole suggested nonchalantly. "Who was in command tonight?" "Staff Sergeant Christoph. He's in the briefing tent waiting for you," Barnes said, heading back to his desk. "Get out there and make this happen, Virgis." "We'll catch them, sir," Cole assured him. "You better. We need to make an example of the thieves to avoid future problems," Barnes said, throwing his pen on his desk in frustration. "Yes, sir," Cole replied, headed for the door. He was deeply concerned for Cassidy's safety. Cole knew he could not stand by and let Barnes make an example of her. On the other hand, he was expected to do his job and usually performed every task with extreme excellence. It would be impossible to do both in this case. His mind swirled with indecision as he approached Monroe and Chappie. "Monroe, Chappie, go wake up Charlie and Alpha Squad and tell them to get to the briefing tent now," he commanded sharply. "Yes, sir," they replied, heading off in 2 directions. As he entered the briefing tent, Cole still couldn't decide what to do. He looked up at the men discussing the situation. "Good morning, Staff Sergeant Christoph," Cole stated calmly as the man saluted him. He saluted back. "Sir, I have no excuse for this. I can't believe I let this happen on my watch. I'm so sorry, sir," Christoph explained, his face wrinkled with frustration and shame. Knowing the fault wasn't Christoph's, it was his, Cole felt drowned in guilt. "Seems like they were studying our patterns, Staff Sergeant. It's not your fault," Cole assured him, approaching the map spread out on the desk. "What do you have for me?" "I think it was a refugee squad from the west. A sergeant at the end of the hallway says he saw a group move through in the early hours." "They were on foot? How are they moving supplies? Do you have a list of stolen items?" "We're still working on the inventory, but it looks like it was mostly IV packs," Christoph explained. "They must have vehicles. They took too much to carry by hand." "Show me the routes they could have taken out," Cole requested. "There are 4 major paths west, sir," Christoph explained, pointing out the lines on the map. "What if they weren't from the west?" We should consider all the possibilities. Call in scouts from the north and east as well, Cole suggested, trying to spread the forces thin. Yes, sir, but we haven't... Cole cut him off. We have to keep all options open until we find them. Yes, sir, Kristoff acquiesced, calling the orders into his radio. Cole watched Monroe enter the tent as he stared aimlessly at the map. Sir, the units are assembled, Monroe told him. Then let's do this, Cole agreed, heading out to address the men. He walked out into the dawn, staring out at the first rays of the sun spraying light across the horizon. 3 assembled teams waited in front of him. I can't do this, he told himself. You have to, he countered his own argument. Summoning his sense of professionalism, it was the most lackluster order he had ever given. Alpha Squad, you're headed northwest with Staff Sergeant Kristoff. Charlie Squad, you're headed north in case they went there. Delta Squad, you're with me. We're headed west. The teams broke away to complete their assigned tasks, but Staff Sergeant Kristoff was confused. Sir, you want me to sweep south after we reach the Minnesota border? Not wanting this dedicated man anywhere near Cassidy's crew, Cole replied. Let's see what we can find and keep it as a fallback if needed. Yes, sir. Let's move out, Alpha Team, Kristoff replied, but he walked away shaking his head in confusion. Monroe leaned in close to Cole as they walked to the transport, whispering, You sure are selling it well, Major. She just needs enough time to clear the border, Cole answered in a breath. Addressing his squad, Cole announced loudly, Delta Squad, spread out. Find me some tracks. They drove out to scour the landscape to the west. Stepping from the vehicle, they went to work looking for tracks. It was Sergeant Cook who had success first. Sir, we've got tracks over here, she declared. Cole rolled his eyes. He had hoped they wouldn't find anything. Seeing his commander's distress, Monroe told him, I'll check it out, sir. Just then, Cole's radio sounded, and the voice of one of the scouts told him, Sir, we saw 3 trucks moving out from just beyond the border. Roger that, he replied. Knowing that the radio chatter would be monitored, he had no choice but to call Kristoff. Alpha Squad. Yes, sir, Kristoff's voice responded. Begin sweeping south. We have the information they may be in 3 smaller vehicles, Cole directed, hoping the team would be too far behind to catch up. Yes, sir, Kristoff replied enthusiastically. Monroe, get back in the vehicle, Cole directed. Yes, sir, he responded before addressing the team. You heard the Major. Get back in the vehicle. Cole tore across the countryside, listening to the radio chatter reporting their progress. Major Virgis, we have one of the trucks. We're engaging now, Kristoff declared. Cole could hear the sound of gunfire and prayed it was not Cassidy's truck. We're en route. Monroe, cut to the southwest. We'll try to head off the others, Cole commanded, hoping somehow he could help them escape. Eyes on 2 more trucks there, sir. We'll be tough pressed to catch them, Monroe declared, to sell the story Cole was weaving. Sir, we're under heavy fire, need a meet. Kristoff declared before he was cut off. Monroe, let them go. We need to back up Kristoff, Cole ordered. Monroe immediately peeled off the 2 trucks and headed for Kristoff's team, engaged with one of the rebel squads. There they are, Monroe yelled, spying them in the distance. Delta Squad, lock and load. We're going in hot, Cole commanded. Cole's heart pounded, but Monroe kept him focused. We got good cover there, sir, he shouted, pointing out a bluff they could shoot from. Shaking his head positively, Cole replied, Use it. Monroe brought the vehicle to a stop, and they jumped out. Let's move, boys, Cole ordered, watching the squad approach. I want minimal casualties. The sound of gunfire echoed across the landscape. Their arrival caused the rebels to grow desperate. They're moving in on Alpha Team, Chappie yelled, watching the battlefield momentum. Lay down suppressive fire. Let's pin them down, Cole insisted. Move forward on the left. We got them on the run, Monroe instructed, seeing their urge to retreat. Push them away from Alpha Squad, Cole ordered, concerned for his men. Cook's voice called to Cole on the radio. Sir, we need a medic and a refugee pickup crew now. Sending them your way, Cole assured her. Shit, he cussed, watching the situation unravel. He was hoping the situation would go down without anyone getting hurt. While he was busy on the radio, Monroe and Chappie had pressed the team forward. "We have you surrounded. Lay down your weapons and come out with your hands up. Nobody has to die here today," Monroe urged, knowing Virgis wanted to end this fight quickly. Cole ran over to check on Alpha Squad. His heart dropped watching Kristoff writhe in pain. His arms thrashed, but his body no longer moved from the waist down. "Chappie, stay with Kristoff," Cole commanded, knowing he needed the attention of a medic immediately. "Yes, sir," Chappie declared, running in to assist. "Sergeant Cook, grab me an extra med kit." "I got it," she told him, leaning down to help. "Alpha Squad, secure the prisoners," Monroe commanded as Cole approached him. "Nice work, Monroe," Cole said officially. He paused for a moment and leaned in closely. "Is she here?" "No, sir," Monroe whispered back. Cole sighed with relief. "She got away," he thought. "Let's see what we have here," he said aloud, walking over to the truck. He peeked in, commenting, "A truck full of stolen supplies. Good work, guys." As he spoke, the noise of the ambulance siren in the distance became louder and louder. Watching it approach, Cole declared, "Let's wrap this up." The ambulance didn't stay long. Once Kristoff was loaded, Chappie returned to Cole's side. "Sir, Kristoff is headed for the medical facility. We lost half of Alpha Squad." Distressed by the loss of life, Cole knew if he had done his job correctly, none of it would have happened. But Cassidy would have gotten captured, which was unacceptable. "Son of a..." he cursed, kicking the dirt with frustration. "She put me in a spot now, didn't she, boys?" Cook was closer than Cole thought, and he jumped as she asked, "Sir, you want me to load these prisoners up?" "Get them out of here," he snapped angrily. He was unsure if she had heard their conversation or not. "I need to report to Major General Barnes." Hello and welcome back to the Changing Earth podcast. This is episode number 414, if you can believe that. It's crazy time. Season 15, episode 19. So you just heard chapter 19 of the book Virgis. So pretty cool story today. I always love the action scenes. So, oh yeah. Hey, Tim, what's up?
Sleep deprivation episode.
Yeah.
Do you know what time it is? Hey, chin's up, y'all. Sorry. And all wrapped up in the episode.
I know. I was, like I say, I'm the action hound, so I'm always like, oh, it's cool. It's a cool chapter today.
I love Cole. He's like, oh, let's go look up north.
Yeah.
Let's look over here.
Maybe out to the east, too. We'll just send some people over there, and
I'll go look to the west. I got this side.
Doesn't want to catch his girlfriend in the action. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, the only thing I have of note, business-wise, to catch everybody up on is the last day to buy tickets to Prepper Camp is rapidly approaching. I believe it's September 10th.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I think so. So if you haven't got your tickets yet, get in there. Camping-wise, I'm sure we're all filled up, but
gonna have to figure that out.
Yeah, you're gonna go. Like, you could rent a big car and sleep in your car. Maybe lots of people doing that kind of stuff and whatnot. Yeah. You'd be like hillbilly camping it for the weekend or something.
Find a Walmart parking lot.
Yeah,
someplace.
I've done that a bunch.
Those aren't very close. I mean, there's nothing really close.
Oh, I heard they're starting to blast classical music in like Walgreens parking lots now. So that
really,
yeah, so they don't have vagrants like hanging out in the parking lots.
That's
so
great.
Yeah. I was like, I would probably be okay with that. I mean, some box, it's cool with me.
Get those foam earplugs.
Yeah, right. No problem. No, we do a lot of parking lot camping when we're on road trips. So that's one of the nicest thing about having a trailer. You can pretty much just crash anywhere. So, yeah. So last week to get the Prepper Camp tickets, or last day is rapidly approaching. Get on it. Working, on the audio drama. I'm actually putting together episode 8 right now. It still has to go through beautification with my audio designer. But yeah, that's well, I guess I can't give spoilers, but I mean, guys, you really, if you haven't heard the stories, go check out the podcast. Like all the audiobooks are live and stuff like that. So, or buy a book.
She did let it slip. There's a lot of walking sounds.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of walking. Like
she let that slip. So I'll share that with you all.
I always have to have, yeah. There's always walking sounds, lots of walking sounds. So, yeah, this is pretty epic. Episode 8. So I'm just jazzed on it. I'm like, I'm addicted to building audio. It's fun stuff, though. All right, so we kind of went into Virgis already. I mean, Cole wakes up, finds out militia hit the facility, which he like pretty much told Cassidy how to do that. Yeah. So
where to get it?
Yeah, like big surprise. He knew it was coming. But then he's got to chase him down, so he kind of, sends people out everywhere. It's really half-hearted. So he's hitting this like really big ethical dilemma in his life. Over, as anybody would in that situation.
It's bad enough being a sympathizer, but then to have somebody, that you care about on the other team that makes it like, oh, you can't keep that up for long.
Right. It's not going to work. So don't want to give any spoilers there, but okay. And again, if you don't know the story, go check out the audio drama. Because a lot of this book comes right out of the audio drama, seasons 1 and 2. So, and then Kristoff was seriously injured. Like, yeah, seriously injured.
Called the ambulance.
Yeah, ambulance had to come in. They got injured people. So, the fallout's really going to happen next week on what Virgis has to face for his actions there is coming down next week. So stay tuned. It's going to be good. But Cassidy's dilemma really brought us to the topic of today's podcast, where they just don't have enough supplies to be able to handle what's going on with their communities. So, if the government's not willing to assist them, then they kind of take it into their own hands. I'm not suggesting anything like that, but our suggestion is don't rely on the government to do that. We got a hold of a cool book. God, what was that book I just shared with you?
I have so many screens open.
I'm sorry, because you're in charge today. I know.
I know. It's like I wish I had my.
I'll check it out. I'll check it out. Well,
that's the Critical Role. Is that the one? That was like a 59-page document you sent me to read.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think it is that one. Actually.
Yeah, that was. It was a PDF that I downloaded.
Yeah, but it's a book too.
Yeah.
I got one of my friends hooked me up with that, and it's all about like.
Oh no, the other one, Knowledge.
Yeah,
the book called Knowledge. Mm-hmm. That was that actually I listened to that on audio because I found it at the library on audiobook. Yeah, that was really good. That's like a walk through time on technology on how stuff works. Yeah, so if you like the Discovery Channel and like shows on like how stuff works, that book is awesome.
Yeah, the Knowledge book.
Yeah. And it is funny because the guy was talking about, I'm not a prepper, but
if society collapses, this is how you rebuild it. Lewis Dartnell wrote it, and really good stuff, guys. Like it
was.
Yeah. It talks about like rebuilding, what are the nuts and bolts to rebuilding. And so I was thinking about that book with this chapter, because like, okay, how do you make the saline solution bags and stuff like that to be able to help people in these situations when they got to get hydrated?
The saline solution. Can you make it with salt and water, or what? What do you have to have something else, or how do how do you get it to dissolve? All
Dr.
that.
Bones. Head on over to doomandbloom.net. He's got all that info. Yes, he does. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll have to get him on the show.
That was really a good book. I mean, I know I told you need to listen to it because I know we're all busy and it's hard to sit down and read, but really anybody, I know there's an app called Hoopla that if you have a public library, you can usually get a library card and then use Hoopla to listen to audiobooks. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's way cool. That's way cool. Yeah.
It's good for road trips.
I get hooked up here and there with some good stuff. So, I'll just have the computer read me the PDF. But the Hoopla is a cool idea for, access to audiobooks.
For people that commute and, it's like in your car time or for like on the tractor, and, so I listened to it when I was just digging trenches and stuff. So it was cool.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump into today's topic. So you can take the reins on this one, Chin. You're the man.
We were like in the green room after the show last week for a while, just chatting this one up. But it was kind of like resources, right, and recovery after an event, whether it be like wildfires or hurricanes or floods or whatever it is, and what leads to like a successful recovery, what determines time length of recovery, and that just sent me down so many rabbit holes.
And like the belief that FEMA is going to be there to do something for you.
That was the but that I was about to. Yeah. So first off, let me say, I am a compassionate person, and anything I say that might be thought otherwise, I do want to help my neighbor and my family and everything else. But we'll get into the subject now. So I don't want people to think I'm cold-hearted with some things that might come out. No. But you just got to say
Chin is the sheepdog. He takes care of us all. Trust me. He is the guardian angel. So yeah, definitely, I can back you up on that one.
But there was one thing was LSU did the university down did a
study.
Review. A study of people after Katrina, and how do you feel? And it was a lot of feelings. So I don't know how many facts because I was trying to find actual facts.
We're all feeling things,
but
yes.
A lot of people, especially in the lower income, like the Ninth Ward and stuff, felt that they weren't getting the attention that they should have been getting. They weren't getting the resources that they should have been getting. They weren't getting taken care of like they expected. And then that got me down a couple other rabbit holes. And I came to the conclusion on that topic. It feels like, and sir, you and I were talking about this a little bit, was when you're an owner or a homeowner, you kind of have a little more skin in the game. As opposed to renters, and you take more precautions up front before events, and then during the catastrophe you might throw the tarp over the roof, as opposed to a renter might not even have a tarp in storage. They might not have the materials to do anything. Like I know I always had, when I lived at the coast, I always had plywood to cover up doors and windows and the axe in the up in the attic kind of stuff. So you just be able to like put right after the rain stops, put a tarp on the roof. So when the scattered storms come after the main event, it's not continually damaging the infrastructure of your house. Yeah. So you could start rebuilding sooner, or you can like tear out. We did a whole show on like pulling out the sheetrock and all that drying and stuff. But if you're still seeing sky through your roof, you can't even start any of that, right?
Yeah, because you're just waiting for the next storm to come in.
Yeah. So I think a lot of, and this has been shown to me, a lot of aspects of it, like even in business, like if you're a partner in a business, if you have skin in the game, if you have money invested in the business, as opposed to sometimes employees don't think the same way as an owner who put a second mortgage on their house.
Right.
Right. So if you have a mortgage on the house, then you might take action quicker to do something, or you might, like call the insurance company, but they're not going to get there for another week to even look. So you're like doing whatever you can, like tearing out the top off your car to cover the patch a hole in the roof, because you can put the car in the garage, and once the patch in the roof is done, then both things are covered.
Or like already taking steps to dry it out so that it doesn't like creep further up the drywall and make the situation worse. Whereas like if you're just renting the house, you're like, yeah, whatever, I can do.
And a renter might not have like a generator or something, or might not have a solar backup system, or might not have some of the battery backup systems that we have available now, so they can't like have light, or they can't have some kind of comfort. Because even think about after a storm, even the comfort of giving a good night's sleep will help you mentally deal with the stresses and make good decisions going forward. Right. But like if you're just hot, like you were just talking about being hot and sweaty, if you're hot and sweaty, can't get a good night's sleep, getting crap to eat, you're eating a ho-ho instead of a decent meal.
Yep.
You're not thinking straight. And right after the event, there's a lot of major decisions that are going to have to be made that lead the way to other decisions and get you to being back to somewhat normal lifestyle quicker.
And then you would ask me too about like, why would it be that like somebody in a poorer community might, be more screwed over in a situation like this. And I can say, from an insurance standpoint, when you don't have a lot of money, then you're putting bare minimum insurance on your house, what you can afford only, like, or what the minimum that the bank is requiring you to even have on there, rather than worrying really about what all the proper coverages are. And then nowadays, a lot of people just go to the internet to find the cheapest quote, the cheapest policy, and nobody really, like, we take a lot of education to understand what an insurance policy is actually about. We have to do continuing education to stay on top of the rules and everything. And for the average person to just be like, yeah, I could totally go and pick out my own insurance policy. I can tell you, even as an agent, I like to have an agent myself, because I like to be able to have that person to bounce things off of. I'm trained mostly in California, and I live here in Texas. So some of the laws are different, and I want to have somebody who's intelligent to be able to talk that through with. And
if you had an event, you're going to be thinking about like your house and your family, while your agent can be thinking about making sure all the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted.
We're scrambling in the background trying to make sure that our clients are taken care of.
You might not have all the resources at hand to actually execute.
Exactly.
At ground.
In a poorer community, though, you're looking at a lot of bare minimum insurance. You're looking at a lot of no extra insurance, right? Like, for example, in California, any kind of earthquake coverage, that's an extra policy you have to buy. Flood insurance is an extra policy you have to buy from the national government. So, from the federal government, So a lot of people just assume like, oh, well, water damage is covered on my homeowner's policy. Well, that's not the case. And then when you get into areas where it's a lot of renters' policies, people don't understand how important a renter's policy is. They think, oh, well, the house is covered. The owner has the house covered. Well, yeah, the owner has the house covered, but none of your stuff is covered. Right. So, like, you could lose all your stuff in the flood. It might be your washing machine.
All your electronics, all your clothing,
right.
all your anything.
Exactly. And so they don't understand like how important that is. It's not just a discount towards your other, because a lot of times, it's a discount towards your auto insurance or whatever, but it's not just that discount. It's important that you're properly insured there. And then, like I was telling you in the green room, there's a provision on there called loss of use. And so if you can't live in the place where you have to pay a year's lease on it, right? You signed the lease. You have to pay for that year, even if you can't live in it. So if you have renter's insurance, it provides you money to be able to live someplace else while that house is being redone. So
so you're not paying double, right? Because you have to pay to either you find friends or family to live with, or you have to find the Holiday Inn to live at, or rent another place while you get your place.
Exactly. Yeah.
You don't want to have to pay 2 rentals.
So you can get like double, dude. Plus, if it's not your house, you might not even be eligible for any kind of federal assistance.
Right.
If you don't own the house, they're like, yeah, well, whatever. You're just kind of screwed. So I can really understand why that would exist, why that discrepancy would exist there. So it's really important that people, are educated on that aspect of preparedness as well.
And on that same track, I found a graph from HUD, and they were talking. They started this this research. It started with Katrina in 2005 and ended with Hurricane Sandy in 2013, and they showed. So it was like the day of the event, and then how long until it was awarded, like HUD was awarded, and then how long after it was awarded to when funds started coming out.
Oh yeah.
And then how long, so funds started coming out, and then how long until the people actually had the funds to be usable, just because they said, it's awarded, yay, but now they're saying, okay, we'll get a check to you in a month or whatever, or 6 months. And then once you have the check in hand, when can you actually start scheduling work to happen?
Yeah. And so if you don't have like an insurance company helping you out with money, you don't have savings to actually deal with it. You don't have the preparedness to be able to adapt and overcome to that situation. Now you could be waiting like a year for any kind of the money to actually.
A lot of these, like Katrina, it was like a year before it was funded.
That's crazy.
And then and like Sandy, it was just shy 2 years before it was they started seeing the money.
That is insane. Yeah, and imagine you're just like, what do I do for 2 years?
And so if you're thinking HUD or FEMA or something's going to take care of you, think this on this same graph they showed the final dot on the graph is 90% completion. So you're pretty much back to normal, but not everybody in the neighborhood's back to 90%. So 1 in 10 families are still dealing with stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So we had Katrina was like 3.5 years to get to 90%, not even total, but 90%. It was 3.5 years. So just think, like living in crap for 3.5 years, right?
Yeah.
And Sandy was the same thing, 3.5 years.
And what are they doing in Maui? Like $700? Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah. Ooh. So that's like one shopping trip to Sam's right there.
Yeah, there was several news articles, and the gist of the news articles that I was reading was they were saying that like small towns, government, and small local organizations were much quicker to adapt to the situation and get help where help needed to be, and help get things back on the road to recovery much faster than anything big state or federal could do. So they were talking about like Katrina, how it affected New Orleans versus like Biloxi, Mississippi. Now, part of that is like New Orleans had the actual wind and rain event, and then they had the flood from the levees. So it's kind of not equal. But they were saying that since Biloxi had a lot more people depending on the local governments and local, churches and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
it came back online a lot quicker
because they already had a strong local infrastructure in place. They could just activate that local infrastructure,
right?
To get
and that was
online.
another thing. A lot of these reports were saying that probably one of the main functions of big government would be to help cities and states get prepared for an event and get resources and skill sets, and like have people trained to be first responders for specialized events, and have resources and have building codes and all that stuff set in place. Mm-hmm. So when an event comes, a disaster comes and hits an area, it's not as catastrophic as if it just blew out a house that was built in the 1920s, or Katrina just like rolled over. So.
Yeah, they're pushing that big time in California right now as far as retrofitting
which is tough
homes
though, because
for the earthquakes.
Yeah, I mean you hear about people that they fixed income and low income, mm-hmm. and they have damage to their house, and they can't just put it back to the way it was. They have to, the minute the damage happens, it has to be retrofitted up to the current codes. And
so
they might not
there's another provision on your insurance policy that provides for code updates to your structure. So
is that an extra? Is that usually part of the standard?
They usually do like 10% standard, but then you can increase that amount depending, like if your house was built in 1950, then you want to make sure that it's called building code or ordinance endorsement. So you want to make sure that that is higher on your policy than like if you live in a house that was built in 2012.
I remember seeing the overages on my policy, because a lot of times my agent would tell me, like, if we had a storm come through, like the cost of plywood is not going to be the same. So they always had that 10, 20% overage.
Yep, that's another provision that they build in there. That's for increased. It's not your dwelling extension, but for increased building expenditures, usually it's 120% on most policies, and you might be able to adjust that one higher too. It's usually a lot cheaper to increase those two endorsements instead of increasing your overall policy. So that's why it's so important.
We had to have it in place before the storm was named. If you got something barreling down on you, get it before the storm's named.
Oh yeah, every time we have an earthquake in California, then I get a handful of people calling in. Oh well, I better get that insurance coverage in place. So with floods, they make you, when you get a flood policy, they make you wait 30 days for it to take effect, no matter what. So if you're in an area where it's flood prone and you're thinking about flood insurance, you better do that, ASAP, because no matter what, it's going to be a 30-day wait, and then they might put a moratorium on it if there's flooding actively happening in your area. So something to think about. The insurance girl.
Here, I'll share this graph of the timing on the HUD.
Yeah, that's something, because everybody's like, oh, well, FEMA is there to help me, and all these government agencies are there to help me. It's like, no,
so you got your bottle of water and your blanket, but what about the house?
Yeah, like their job is big infrastructure. Their job is to fix the levees, to make sure that the roads, the major routes are passable, to make sure that power is turned back on. They don't care about you and your house. Mm-hmm. They don't care about that. It's up to you to make sure that you have your supplies, that you are doing your part to be ready. And then the one step further would be your local government. And they have that, the CERT program, right? CERT.
Yeah.
Community
that's local
Emergency Response Team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like the volunteer fire department kind of concept.
Right. Yeah. So, if you guys are concerned, like, obviously, I do reports on the changing earth, right? And we talk about this extreme weather, and we can debate over what causes it or whatever, okay?
It doesn't change the fact that you still have to deal with it.
that you're probably going to have to deal with it, here this year, next year. So it's definitely good to be ready. Like you said in the green room, being able to adapt and overcome.
Yeah,
that's going to be the key.
Another interesting fact they were talking about is relief help from big government was a lot of it has to be done this way. You know what I mean? It's like they're not as efficient because they're too wrapped up in red tape.
Right.
It's like I have this bottle of water, and I want to give you this bottle of water. I know you're thirsty because the water's all contaminated in your area. I've got it. It's in the back of my truck. I want to give it to you, but I can't give it to you until you fill this out in triplicate, and we can document and verify that paperwork is correct.
Yeah.
The minute that happens, this is in your hand. I'll give it to you.
Right.
Where, if you run up to the local whatever group, the ABC group, and they're like, yeah, here, take this bottle of water, and do you need one do you have kids, or take a 6-pack of it?
And that's why typically it's easier for the federal help to come even to a community group and then to be distributed from there.
Allocate. Yeah.
Right. Instead of like that bridge between federal and you is not going to happen, Man, if I could give you a nickel for every time I've heard somebody be like, I don't have to be ready, FEMA is there. I'm like, wow, you're putting a lot of faith in the government. Like, really? Because I can give you a lot more examples of how it's failed us. Rather than how, it, especially on a federal level, rather than how it's so efficient and quick and easy to work with, whereas, I'd much rather make sure I'm prepared on my own,
Yeah. So basically, the smaller the entity, the quicker and more efficient it is. So if you think about your family, it's going to be quicker to deal with your family's problems than your neighborhood community or your city or town. You know what I mean? So the further you go away from your nuclear family, the less efficient and slower it is going to help you resolve the issue.
And if you're personally ready, then you can be the one to be able to, help others and make that a more efficient process as well. So, I mean, if you're not worrying about your own stuff, that your nuclear is taken care of, you can help others.
If a majority of the people in your neighborhood are ready and your house just gets totally wiped out, then maybe some of your neighbors can each, give you a couple bottles of water. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
Or give you some resource. They each pitch in a little bit because they all prepared, and we can prepare all we want, but we can't prepare for everything.
Nope.
And sometimes, it's just going to be your bad day. But, if you work together as a community, y'all, don't make enemies, make allies.
Right.
And it goes a lot longer, and you'll be able to help each other out.
That's why I always say, like, prepared people make prepared communities, make prepared, it just goes up from there. So, because people are always like, whoa, you're a prepper, and you talk about that. And I'm like, yeah, because I want to help you be ready as well. And then once you're ready, then neighbor John is ready, then neighbor Steve is ready, then neighbor Barb is ready, then neighbor Mary is ready. Now we're a prepared community. We have something major happen. We can band together to help. I mean, that's the whole basis of insurance too, when it comes down to it. You're all throwing your money into a pool in hopes that you never need it. But if you did, it's there. So it's the same concept with your community and throwing your lot in with them to, hopefully it's not you that needs the assistance of that community, but you're there to give it if somebody else needs it. And if you need it, then they're there to give it to you, which, now we're all individuals working in a great system where we don't have to have rules and socialization that mandates that we have to do that, because that just doesn't work well in America,
Yeah.
But I've seen a lot about, we need a global rescue agency that can go into these hard-hit areas of the world to be able to assist. And I'm like...
Well, that totally goes against what I was just saying.
Exactly.
The bigger the entity, the slower and less efficient it is. And even to the fact of... Okay, in agreement, we're also talking about redistribution of money and taxes and everything else. But So if the federal government collects $1 and they're going to assign that to disaster relief,
right?
Then how much of that dollar is actually, how many bottles of water are being purchased, as opposed to the paperwork, the storage?
Like 20 cents is actually making it there.
Yeah. So.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree. That's what I'm saying. It's just not efficient. We have to work from the other way. We have to work from the local way up, get everybody prepared. We have all this technology. We have all this information sharing, which means we can go worldwide and have community responses in your own community, no matter what country you're in, where you can be prepared for your disaster. And then if anything were to happen on like a global scale, your country's prepared, this country's prepared. Now we can help each other. But you have to work the other way up. You can't work like, oh, we have this worldwide global response team that's going to go and screw things up really well every time they go in anywhere.
Because they're used to doing things in there. They even talked about how like some of the FEMA trailers were arriving, and they were the construction and stuff of that house trailer was a lot worse than some of the local like churches and with Habitat for Humanity kind of stuff, where they built a cottage for a person or a family to live in, as opposed to FEMA trucked in a whole bunch of trailers. Well, the next storm that came through just blew the trailer over.
No.
The cottage was a little stronger and a little more resilient because it was built for the local area.
Yeah, by people who actually like give a crud about you instead of, we're just shipping all these tinder boxes out to get blown over in the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hopefully, we got to have our communities online. We got to have our communities on check, and we're going to be dealing with these issues more and more. So I get so many, I wanted to bring it to the world scope because I have so many listeners across the whole world now. And so I don't want to always just apply like what the United States does. And I know that the disasters are hitting everywhere else as well. So it really is about your community, you taking that step to know what's going on. Worry about yourself first, and then your community. And then maybe you can start, at a bigger level, helping more people. But if you want to change the world, make your own bed first, right?
Yeah. And if everybody did that, there'd be less drain on resources. There would still be resources needed because
you're going to get hit.
Because, like I said, I mean, you and I might live right next to each other, and we were both prepared semi-equally, but the boulder rolled down the hill and crushed my house. So all my preps are gone too. Not just my house. Everything that I had in my house is totaled now. So if we all, then there's less. The Red Cross could come and take care of me, or you could come over and say, "Hey, Dave,
hey man,
here's some soap because you stink now because it's so hot outside."
And neighbor across the street's got help. Exactly.
So it would be less of the big FEMA thing needed because everybody would be more helping each other out, and that's instantaneous.
I'm dreaming. That's like the dreamland right there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's dreamland. We'll make it happen. One person at a time getting prepared. That's all it takes. So.
Yep.
All right, let's jump into some changing Earth news. So speaking of disasters, let's go through what's been shaking. Yeah, let's roll that boulder down the hill. So we had a pretty quiet sun week last week. The sun kind of calmed down a little bit, but that is over now. We had a filament eruption a sunspot eruption as one of the sun groups was leaving. And then we just had another eruption from one of the sunspots that is turning in to be Earth facing. So we're going to have eyes on that this week. Hurricane, I hate this name for it. Like they had to give you a challenging name. Hurricane Idalia.
Oh, that one's about to pop off.
Yeah, it's coming this week, guys. It's expected to come up through the Florida Panhandle and northern Florida. It is also supposed to hit Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. Tropical storm.
Run up the coast. So
yeah.
Well, not hopefully, but.
And across, kind of jumping from the Gulf into the Atlantic. And they think it might even stall for a bit. So you guys should be ready for a major rain event. And might I just say that I am so jealous? Like, it's been so hot and dry here. I wouldn't even I guess I shouldn't, say
See,
it out
the sun's
loud,
waving to you in the chat room.
Oh, yeah. It's just such a mess, man. Yeah. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. Just what I need to see is more sun. It's just the worst. So, praying for everybody in Maui. What a mess that is. They still don't have a number on what the actual amount of dead and missing people are. And the reason why I wanted to bring it up is because it just nails home the importance of having a family game plan. I mean, if you have a child who's at home and you're not there, you need you gotta have a plan, man. You gotta have a plan of what to do. So really, really important. They should know how to shut down the utilities to the house, right? Gas and things like that. You gotta have a folder. You gotta have a game plan. Very, very just. I don't want to put the blame anywhere, but just, maybe learning from other people's misfortunes in this case and how important it is to have that game plan, especially when you guys are separated from each other. Where are you going to meet if you can't meet at home? Those kind of things. So, okay, that's my rant on that
plan
one.
A, plan B, and plan C,
yeah.
D,
It broke my heart, dude. It broke my heart. I'm like, oh. So, okay, August 20th. So we're back to last Sunday. We had 456 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, biggest of which was a 5.7 in the South Atlantic Islands near the South. That's right. South Sandwich. So pretty big earthquake happening over there. Hillary came up the coast. The Mexican Baja got pretty smashed by it. Mulahay, Santa Rosa were the hardest hit. Unfortunately, one person did pass away there. The tropical storm did end up hitting California. It did break a lot of rainfall records in those areas. But, boots on the ground, what they were saying compared to what happened, it wasn't as bad. And probably, because of the homeless population, a lot of people that were homeless didn't have anywhere to go during the storm. So that was bad. Then on the same day, a 5.1 hit 4 miles south of Ojai in California. So it was right in the same area. Storms hitting, earthquakes are happening. Even the earthquake, it didn't cause any injuries, and boots on the ground again, because I have clients all across California. Boots on the ground again. We're like, I didn't even feel it. I'm in San Diego. So not as big a deal, but we did have that happen. On the other hand, Russia in Moscow got hit with some severe storms. They had 8 people pass away. They were on an underground sewer system tour. I was like, I'm sorry for my Russian listeners.
Take a vacation.
But right? I was like, only in Russia. Oh yes, we're booked for our underground sewer system tour today. It's raining. I'm going to go do that anyway. So yeah, unfortunately 8 people lost their life. It just filled up so fast. They didn't have anywhere to go. So prayers go out to everybody there that was involved or is mourning a loved one. August 21st, there was 396 earthquakes or 2.0 or bigger, the biggest of which was a 6.8 in Ecuador. There was a 5.5, a 6.8 in Ecuador. And in the United States, 2 people in Washington passed away. There was the Gray Fire and the Oregon Road Fire. And between these 2 fires, they burned 265 structures, a total of 21,000 acres or 8,500 hectares. Very fast-moving wildfires. And as of the 21st, the Gray was 50% contained. The Oregon Road one wasn't at all. So, those were some one of those was up by Spokane, Washington. So big stuff happening there. And Greece, northeastern Greece, they had severe wildfires. They had a total of 20 people pass away. One was a shepherd, and 19 of them, they believe they were migrants that were making their way through. They had to evacuate 20 villages. Now, again, news media is like, oh, climate change. But then they ended up arresting like 30 arsonists, I believe, in Greece. Yeah. So people starting fires because they want to be able to say, like, see, climate change is happening. Mm-hmm. Fires are bad news, guys. Do not. I mean, come on. You're just taking everything away from somebody, even their life at times. So it's horrible. I can't imagine that you would do such a horrific thing, but that's exactly what happened. It also happened in Spain. We were talking about the Tenerife wildfire. It's on an island, and they caught the arsonist who caused that fire as well. So this is serious business that we don't need to encourage anything to be happening. We already have plenty to deal with. August 22nd, we had 388 earthquakes or 2.0 or bigger, the biggest of which was a 5.9 in Xinjiang, China. And there was really no other very big significant weather events that day. A lot of cleanup going on and things like that, but nothing that really popped off as like, wow, this happened that day. That's extreme. It's not very often I find days like that, so that's kind of unique in of itself. August 23rd, there was 346 earthquakes or 2.0 or bigger, biggest of which was a 6.2 in Argentina. Severe storm hit Saudi Arabia, hit Mecca, and lightning actually struck one of the main towers there and everything. Fierce winds going on, big storm. So they had pilgrims just being blown away and stuff. So what a pilgrimage, you make your pilgrimage to Mecca and then it's like this gnarly storm comes through. So prayers to everybody, that was involved in that. That's crazy to have happen. There was a 5.8 earthquake in Argentina as well. This one was about 575 kilometers or 357 miles deep. So that's pretty deep. There was a 4.6 in Liaoning, China. It was 8 kilometers or 5 miles deep. So that's a shallow quake. Lots of, damage, property damage from that event. Flash flooding at the Grand Canyon in Arizona. They had to evacuate people from hotels and homes at the South Rim. The water was about 3 foot high. So you're at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. Guess where the water is coming when it starts flooding? In Chile, right? I mean, that's it. They do the same thing at Zion National Park too, man. I can't believe the amount of, everybody's just trying to take advantage of the tourism that goes on there. So it's kind of sad in one note because there's not a whole lot of water there and you're, really disrupting the natural environment. So in Chile, there was 3 people that unfortunately lost their lives. Thousands of people evacuated in massive amounts of flooding up in their mountain territories. They say it's the heaviest rain that they've had in 3 decades and more is on the way. So they are dealing with some extreme weather down there. 24th of August, there was 380 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, biggest of which was a 5.8 in the North Pacific Ocean in Japan. The extreme heat continues in the U.S. Southwest and Midwest, and I can definitely testify to that one as I look at the little sun waving at me in chat. Tropical storm Franklin hit the Dominican Republic. It's hitting the Dominican Republic. Haiti, not expected to hit the United States. Mexico is dealing with heavy rain as Tropical Depression Harold kind of moved in. 50 to 70 kilometer per hour winds, and it put 5 states in Mexico into a state of emergency. In Lafayette, they had 105 degree temperatures. So this is Lafayette, Louisiana. This ties the all-time high. It is the third hottest temperature in 130 years. So I knew this wasn't normal. I'm telling you, I know Texas it gets hot, but man, it is off the chain right now. That sparked up. They're dealing with a ton of wildfires in Louisiana right now, in the northeast part of the state and the southwest. Luckily, our co-host over there in PBN, Phil, he's doing okay so far. So we'll keep praying for everybody there. But yeah, some severe stuff going on there in Louisiana. Also, Michigan and Ohio saw some extreme weather as well. Northern Ohio, southern part of Michigan, they have had flooding and hail, and both on the 24th and the 25th, tornadoes touched down. 7 tornadoes in Michigan, 10 altogether touched down.
There's been a ton of tornadoes in odd spots.
Right? Okay, so both Pennsylvania, Connecticut, all of that getting hit by tornadoes, which
New York,
is so crazy. Yeah.
That was a while back, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And it just doesn't usually happen over there. I mean, I lived on the East Coast for a long time. Sometimes we had water spouts that came in off the lakes in Michigan, but we didn't have like full-on tornadoes going across the state, which is really, really strange. So it's definitely making the list of the Changing Earth news. Las Vegas had flash flooding. Multiple people were swept away. Again, they have a pretty solid homeless population as well. So it's tough to really know like how many people are involved in that. Salem, Oregon, they had to have evacuations due to a fast-moving wildfire. 2 structures were confirmed down. And then we had some interesting earthquakes. We had a 2.0 or a 2.6 in southern Los Angeles. That one's not too unusual, but a 2.6 Lake County, Ohio, 2.6 in southern Missouri. And we had an earthquake swarm at Kilauea, the 4th earthquake swarm in just a week. News today on Yellowstone, we're having some earthquake swarms over there. So some interesting things happening there. August 25th, 389 earthquakes that are 2.0 or bigger, biggest of which was a 5.3 in the South Atlantic Ocean. We had the tornadoes touch down in the Midwest. We have a major wildfire going in Jasper County. It's up to 750 acres there. Louisiana fires were getting worse. Winnipeg, Ontario area, they had winds, extreme hail, literally smashing out windows. Okay, and then we had a 3.9 earthquake in the North Bay in San Francisco. So the coast is still on the move there. 4.5 off the Oregon coast. 5.8 off the coast of Honshu in Japan. And a 2.8 in Victoria by Melbourne, Australia. So a lot of movement kind of playing in the Ring of Fire right now. August 26th, 324 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, biggest of which was a 5.1 in Indonesia. We're hitting the Ring of Fire again. And then Alaska, they get these. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to just say the cuss word. Shishaldin. If I meant to say the cuss word, I'd be proud of it. But Shishaldin volcano, they had a massive explosion of that volcano. 10 confirmed tornadoes out of that 25th storm. 5 people unfortunately passed away in that Michigan area. Kazakhstan, they are having dust storms up north, severe rains in the south. So it just shows you like how it can be so crazy on just one end of the country versus the other end. Oregon had this big old lightning storm. 50 wildfires. You never want to see lightning storms on those dry western coast states. And sparked about 50 wildfires over there. The Louisiana wildfire is still going. We had a earthquake on the Tennessee-North Carolina border, a 1.9. Now, I know it's not huge or anything, but there's been a lot of earthquakes happening over in that New Madrid area that always throws a red flag up in my head. It's definitely an area that we keep an eye on. On a 5.0 in the Philippines. On the 27th, which is today, Sunday, the 27th, there's been 308 earthquakes that are 2.0 or bigger, biggest of which is a 5.1 in Indonesia. I just got a heads up from a notification from Ben at Suspicious Observers that we are going on an earthquake watch because of solar activity. So we're going to be heads up on the earthquake situation. There was also a 2.3 earthquake in Howardville, Missouri today. So again, I'm always watching that New Madrid area. That New Madrid goes off. That is bad news for the center of our country. So we got to keep an eye on that. And then Germany's been having some severe storms. Bavaria was hit with severe storm with hail damage. I was watching some videos coming out of there. It was crazy storms. As of this afternoon, there are 27 volcanoes actively erupting right now, 32 showing minor activity, 30 showing unrest. This is exactly the same as last week. Kind of tall numbers as far as our erupting goes. I mean, not the 30 that we saw not too long ago, but, on the upper end of the numbers. And I would expect to see those go up further in the next couple weeks or so because of the solar activity and the earthquake activity we're going to pick up again. As far as the United States goes, we are at a preparedness level of 4 with our national wildfires. There is a total of 645,789 acres on fire in the United States right now. Total of 81 fires. Major fires. These are only the big fires. And 3 of those are contained. Number 1 state for wildfires right now is Alaska with 204,000 acres on fire. Oh, that's coming from 8 fires. None of those are contained. And my mom was like, well, it's probably been burning as long as Canada has been burning. And that is not the case, folks. Alaska's wildfires just popped up not last week, but like the week before. They came out of nowhere, really. And so that was interesting. And I haven't been seeing a lot of news about that. So that's kind of curious. Number 2 state on the list is California, 105,273 acres. This is just wildfire season for California, so we can always expect to see something out of them. One year we saw like 1 million acres burn, so that's actually a really good year for California, the 105,000. This is coming from 7 major fires, and they are 0% contained at this time. Oregon is number 3 on the list. They had all those wildfires break out from the lightning storm. That's a total of 88,095 acres. This is coming from 7 major fires. None of those are contained. And then Idaho still coming in at number 4 on the list with 64,011 acres on fire. This is coming from 13 fires, and none of those are contained. When you don't have containment like that, it's just because they probably are saving structures. And, it's burning like a forest, a national forest or something like that. And they'll just do structure protection and not worry about really getting total containment on it unless it's in a heavily populated area. So it's not always like major catastrophe that they don't have containment on a fire like that.
Focus in the energies.
Right. Yeah. Save the structures. That's why the Washington fire where the 265 buildings were lost. Now that's a big deal because usually they go in there and do, buildings. They save the buildings. And that's what made Maui and Lahaina actually so devastating is because the amount of structures that was burned. Whenever you see, a lot of structures go down, that's when there's problems with those fires. So that's when you need to be ready, man. 5 minutes. You got to be ready to leave in 5 minutes. It's a tall order, but if you're in any kind of area, yeah.
I mean, that's tough. Put a stopwatch on you. Set your phone to 5 minutes and see how many people are loaded up in the car.
Yeah, and how much stuff and your animals and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, it is a tall order. But you can get there. It takes practice. And the reason...
Oh, trust me, the wife and the dog would be in the car. I'd be the one.
Shuttling everything back and forth. See, that's what we do. We know where everything is. Then we just stage it to a spot in the house. And then people just shuttle it back and forth to the car till we're ready to go.
Yeah.
But what the reason for like the 5 minutes is because if you have to get out of the area, now you're out ahead of everybody else.
Right.
And that's so key. Like, I mean, you're out before they can set up barricades to like stop the flow of traffic and stuff. You're out before any of that can even happen. So that's why the 5 minutes is like 5 minutes. Do it. Practice. I got to practice myself. So, alrighty. Well, that was a fun day. Hopefully everybody feels empowered to like get your stuff structured because or
justified in what they're doing.
Yes, justified.
The fact that you are prepping means you're taking care of yourself, and you might even be taking care of somebody next door or a family member.
I like that. That. See, Chin the sheepdog, always looking out for us. It's awesome.
It's not all selfish acts.
No, for now, yeah.
They want to paint us as like hoarders and stuff, but it's not the case.
Nope. It's that. We're just, and if you encourage everybody else to be in the same boat, then everybody can help each other.
Yep.
Alrighty. Well, let's go ahead and get out of here. Hopefully I remembered the other big thing. I'm sorry. I did not announce this at the beginning of the show. Next weekend, we're doing the binge show and the blooper show. So you got to tune in to the Changing Earth podcast next week. Dude, guys, the blooper show is going to be so much fun. And we're going to play the binge show, the binge for the audio drama. I'll put it in the chat room. But we're going to play that during the day on Sunday. It's Memorial Day weekend, so you'll have lots of time. We're playing that during the day on Sunday, and then we're going to do the live show with performers and stuff that afternoon at 5:30 time, Central Time, the normal time when my show goes live. So you will be able to get the replay of it, but if you come live, get into the chat. You'll be able to chat it up with everybody, and the bloopers.
The cast of characters.
Yeah, the bloopers. The bloopers are going to be 100% worth it. I was like, well, Brock told me it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. So here we go.
You're pinning it all on Brock.
Yeah, I'm going to pin it on Brock. And yeah, hopefully Swenson doesn't get too mad at me. We'll just put it that way. So, yeah. But the blooper show is going to be a ball. So, guys, come on by. Come into the chat, say hi, and let's have some fun next week. So we'll be taking a break from Virgis. We'll be back with Virgis the weekend after that. All right. There you go. Good thing I remembered. Whew. All right, guys. Until next time, remember, dream,
survive,
thrive.
Thank you for joining Sarah and Chen for this episode of the Changing Earth podcast. Don't forget to pick up your copy of Day After Disaster, Without Land, The Walls of Freedom, Battle for the South, Dark Days in Denver, and The Endless Night at www.authorSarahFHathaway.com. If you love the Changing Earth series and podcast, become a supporter while you're there.